When I saw him put the dressing gown on and sort of topple over, I thought it was just a sort of original finish he'd got, something new. He's not moving, and I thought, well, there must be something wrong.
Performing on stage is a performer's sanctuary, where they share their artistry, connect with audiences, and often find their purpose. However, in rare and tragic instances, the stage becomes the site of their final act, a place where life and art collide in unsettling and unforgettable ways. The deaths of performers in the midst of their craft can be particularly haunting, not just for the shock and sadness of the event, but because they transform what was meant to be a moment of shared joy or drama into a chilling spectacle. Here are 20 of the most disturbing deaths of performers who died on stage, remembered for their eerie and heartbreaking circumstances. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. 1. Tommy Cooper, the magician who collapsed into laughter's arms. Tommy Cooper, a beloved British comedian and magician, was known for his slapstick humor and larger-than-life stage presence. On April 15, 1984, during a live television broadcast of the variety show Live from Her Majesty's, Cooper was performing one of his classic routines in which the hilarity was often derived from his tricks going wrong on purpose. Dressed in his signature fez, he was mid-performance when he suddenly collapsed onto the stage. At first, the audience erupted in laughter, assuming it was part of the act. Even the production team delayed any immediate intervention, believing it to be another layer of Cooper's comedic genius. However, as moments passed and Cooper lay motionless, the grim reality began to sink in. Cooper had suffered a massive heart attack live on air, in full view of millions of viewers. Despite the quick response of the show's crew and the frantic efforts of medical professionals backstage, he was pronounced dead at the scene. The juxtaposition of laughter and sudden tragedy left audiences and colleagues reeling, turning what should have been a night of joy into a chilling memory etched into the annals of live television. 2. Dick Shawn, a final bow in satire's name. Dick Shawn, an unconventional comedian and actor known for his absurdist humor, had spent his career pushing boundaries and challenging comedic norms. On April 17, 1987, he was performing a one-man show in San Diego. Shawn's performance often included an apocalyptic monologue in which he portrayed the sole survivor of a nuclear holocaust, humorously exploring themes of loneliness and survival. As part of his act that night, Shawn lay down on stage as if playing dead. Moments later, he collapsed, but unlike previous performances, he did not rise again. The audience, accustomed to Shawn's unpredictable antics, initially thought it was another avant-garde part of the show. They chuckled nervously as he remained on the floor, thinking it was a satirical twist to his post-apocalyptic tale. But as the silence lengthened and concerned whispers rippled through the theater, it became apparent that Shawn was not acting. He had suffered a fatal heart attack. Paramedics were called, and the audience was asked to leave, stunned and confused by what had unfolded. Shawn's death was a tragic end to a career built on challenging perceptions of humor and performance, his final act blurring the lines between art and reality in an almost poetic way. 3. Molière, the irony of the hypochondriac's demise. Jean-Baptiste Poquelin, known by his stage name Molière, is one of the most celebrated playwrights and actors in history. A towering figure of French theater, he was renowned for his biting satires and comedies that critiqued society's hypocrisies. Yet his death remains one of the most ironic and disturbing in theatrical history. On February 17, 1673, Molière was performing in Les Malades Imaginaires, The Hypochondriac, a play that mocks the absurdities of hypochondria and the medical practices of the time. Molière himself was not in good health during this performance. In the middle of the fourth act, where his character goes into a comedic fit, he began coughing violently and collapsed on stage. Ever the consummate performer, he insisted on finishing the scene despite his obvious distress. His colleagues helped him off stage, but soon after the curtain fell, Molière succumbed to what is believed to have been a pulmonary hemorrhage. Adding to the eerie tragedy of Molière's death is the fact that his mockery of hypochondria became his final narrative. Superstition and religious laws of the time made it difficult for an actor to be buried in consecrated ground, but King Louis XIV intervened, ensuring Molière received a proper burial. His death remains a somber reminder of how closely art and life can intertwine, often in unexpected and unsettling ways. 4. Mark Sandman, The Silence After the Final Note. Mark Sandman, the frontman of the indie rock band Morphine, was an enigmatic figure whose deep voice and moody, jazz-infused sound captivated audiences. On July 3, 1999, During a performance at the Nel Nome Del Rock Festival in Palestrina, Italy, Sandman was delivering another soul-stirring set when tragedy struck. In the middle of the song, he suddenly collapsed on stage. Fans and bandmates alike were confused, initially mistaking his fall as part of the performance. But the silence that followed his collapse quickly shattered the illusion. Medics rushed to the stage, but Sandman could not be revived. He had suffered a fatal heart attack at the age of 46. The haunting nature of Sandman's death lies not just in its suddenness, but in the stark contrast between his vibrant, charismatic stage presence and the quiet finality of his passing. His death left a hole in the world of music, with Morphine disbanding shortly afterward. The image of Sandman's collapse during a song encapsulates the fragility of life and the unpredictability of death. It turned what was meant to be a moment of artistic transcendence into an unsettling reminder of mortality. 5. Brandon Lee, the fatal illusion of film's staged violence. Though technically not on a live stage, the death of Brandon Lee, the actor and martial artist son of Bruce Lee, remains one of the most disturbing in performance history. On March 31, 1993, while filming a scene for The Crow, Lee was involved in a sequence where his character is shot. The prop gun used in the scene was supposed to fire blanks, but due to a series of tragic oversights and errors, it was loaded with a live round fragment. As the cameras rolled, Lee was shot in the abdomen and collapsed. Initially, cast and crew thought his fall was a brilliant piece of acting, but as blood began to pool and Lee remained unresponsive, the horrifying reality became clear. He was rushed to the hospital but succumbed to his injuries hours later. The circumstances surrounding Brandon Lee's death have been the subject of much speculation and controversy, including rumors of a curse on the Lee family. His death is particularly chilling because it occurred during the simulation of violence, blurring the lines between performance and reality in the most tragic way imaginable. Lee's promising career was cut short, leaving behind a legacy of what might have been, and a haunting cautionary tale about the dangers of negligence in the world of performance. 6. Leslie Harvey, electrocution in the midst of music. Leslie Harvey, the talented guitarist of the Scottish rock band Stone the Crows, was known for his electrifying stage presence and skilled performances. On May 3, 1972, while performing with the band at Swansea's top-ranked ballroom, Harvey's life came to a tragic and shocking end. The performance was going as planned until Harvey touched a poorly grounded microphone while his hands were wet from sweat. The combination of moisture, faulty wiring, and the powerful electrical current running through the equipment proved fatal. Harvey was electrocuted in front of a horrified audience and his bandmates, who initially thought the incident was part of a technical mishap. Despite efforts to save him, Harvey was pronounced dead at the age of 27, joining the infamous 27 Club. The deeply disturbing aspect of Harvey's death lies in its sheer avoidability, a grim reminder of the importance of safety in live performances. The haunting image of a musician pouring his soul into his craft, only to meet such a tragic fate, lingers as one of rock music's darkest moments. 7. Jane Little, A Symphony Ends Mid-Note. Jane Little holds the record as the world's longest-serving orchestra musician, having played the bass for the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra for an astounding 71 years. Her passion for music and her dedication to her art were unparalleled. On May 15, 2016, the 87-year-old Little was performing in an outdoor concert at Atlanta Symphony Hall. During the orchestra's rendition of There's No Business Like Show Business, Little collapsed on stage. At first, audience members and fellow musicians thought she might be feeling faint from the warm weather. However, the severity of the situation became clear as medics rushed to assist her. Despite immediate attention, Little passed away from a heart attack. There is an eerie, poetic quality to her passing. Little's life revolved around music, and her death occurred in the very environment where she had spent decades bringing joy to others. Her story is a testament to a life devoted to the stage, but her sudden collapse during a jubilant performance left a shadow over what should have been a celebratory moment. 8. Owen Hart, the stunt that went horribly wrong. In the world of professional wrestling, few tragedies are as haunting as the death of Owen Hart. Known for his charisma, athleticism, and sense of humor, Hart was a beloved figure in the World Wrestling Federation (WWF), now WWE. On May 23, 1999, during the Over the Edge pay-per-view event in Kansas City, Hart was performing as his comedic alter ego, the Blue Blazer. As part of the act, Hart was to be lowered from the rafters of the Kemper Arena via a harness and cable. The stunt was meant to parody superhero entrances, adding a layer of humor to the show. However, a malfunction caused Hart to fall nearly 80 feet, landing chest first on the top rope before collapsing into the ring. The audience initially believed it to be part of the performance, but when medical personnel rushed to the scene, the horrifying reality set in. Hart was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. His death sent shockwaves through the wrestling community and sparked widespread criticism of the safety protocols in place for such stunts. The tragic irony of a comedic character's fatal fall during a lighthearted gimmick underscores the chilling unpredictability of live performances. 9. Edith Webster, Death as the Final Curtain. Edith Webster, a seasoned stage actress, had spent her career captivating audiences with her powerful performances. In December 1986, Webster was performing in The Drunkard, a melodrama she had been part of for years, in Baltimore. Her role required her character to sing "Please Don't Talk About Me When I'm Gone" before collapsing in a dramatic death scene. On that fateful night, art tragically imitated life. Webster delivered her performance as usual, singing her signature number and collapsing to the stage floor. The audience, familiar with the play, applauded what they thought was another convincing portrayal. However, as the seconds stretched into minutes, it became evident that something was terribly wrong. Webster had suffered a fatal heart attack in the middle of her performance and passed away on the stage she loved. The unnerving reality of Webster's death lies in the perfect synchronization of fiction and reality. Her character's scripted demise became her real one, leaving the audience and her fellow actors shaken and unable to process the sudden convergence of theater and mortality. 10. Joseph Green, a banquet speech that turned fatal. Joseph Green was a respected Jewish-American actor and filmmaker, celebrated for his contributions to Yiddish theater and cinema. On April 20th, 1996, Green was delivering a speech at a banquet held in his honor in New York City. The event was a tribute to his illustrious career, and the room was filled with admirers and colleagues eager to celebrate his achievements. Midway through his speech, Green paused, clutched his chest, and collapsed. At first, the audience thought his stumble might be part of a lighthearted joke or an intentional dramatic moment. However, the room quickly fell silent as the severity of the situation became clear. Green had suffered a fatal heart attack in front of the assembled guests, turning a night of celebration into one of mourning. The unsettling nature of Green's death is tied to the poignancy of the occasion. To pass away while reflecting on a life dedicated to the arts added an extra layer of tragedy to the event, transforming a moment of admiration into an enduring symbol of how fragile and unpredictable life can be. 11. Charles Gounod's opera singer, a tragic note in the music hall. On April 8, 1897, an opera performance of Charles Gounod's Faust took a dark turn at the Grand Theater in St. Petersburg, Russia. Famed Russian tenor Fyodor Komisarjevsky was performing the climactic aria in the final act of the opera, where Faust begs for forgiveness and redemption in a moment of intense drama. As Komisarjevsky reached the emotional peak of his performance, he suddenly collapsed on stage. Initially, the audience believed the fall to be part of his character's anguish, marveling at his dramatic prowess. However, the reality quickly became apparent when the orchestra stopped playing and the cast rushed to his aid. Komisarjevsky had suffered a fatal heart attack in the middle of his stirring aria. The singer's voice was silenced forever in the very moment it was soaring to its greatest emotional heights, leaving an audience both devastated and awestruck by the intensity of the performance. The death of Komisarjevsky remains a chilling reminder of how performers pour their entire being into their craft, sometimes at the ultimate cost. The sudden collapse of life amidst the soaring melodies of Gounod's masterpiece created an unforgettable and tragic moment in opera history. 12. Madame Dolinsky, the Tightrope Tragedy. Madame Dolinsky, an early 19th century tightrope walker and acrobat, was known for her daring stunts and gravity-defying performances. On July 13, 1820, she was performing her signature act at a circus in Paris. Her routine involved walking a tightrope while carrying a small child as part of the spectacle, demonstrating her remarkable balance and composure. On this particular evening, disaster struck. The rope suddenly snapped, sending Madame Dolinsky and the child plunging to the ground in front of a stunned crowd. Both she and the child died from the fall, leaving the audience in shock and grief. The death of Madame Dolinsky was particularly disturbing due to the presence of a child in her act, heightening the emotional weight of the tragedy. Her death sparked conversations about the ethics of dangerous stunts in public performances and the risks entertainers face in their pursuit of thrilling their audiences. 13. Nick Menza, a drummer's heartbeat silenced. Nick Menza, the former drummer of the legendary thrash metal band Megadeth, was a beloved figure in the heavy metal community, known for his technical prowess and energetic performances. On May 21, 2016, Menza was performing with his band Ohm at a small club in Studio City, California. The set was electrifying, with Menza pounding the drums with his signature intensity. Suddenly, in the middle of a song, Menza slumped over his drum kit and collapsed. Bandmates and audience members rushed to help him, but Menza had suffered a massive heart attack. Despite immediate medical attention, he passed away at the age of 51. Menza's death struck a poignant chord with fans, as he died while doing what he loved most, performing live. The shocking abruptness of his passing underscored the fragility of even the most vibrant and seemingly unstoppable performers, leaving a community in mourning for one of metal's most respected drummers. 14. Irma Bule, the Singer and the Snake. Irma Bule, an Indonesian dangdut singer known for her extravagant performances, often incorporated live snakes into her act to create a dramatic visual spectacle. On April 3, 2016, during a concert in West Java, Bule was performing with a king cobra on stage. The snake was part of her routine and had been defanged, or so she thought. During the performance, Bule accidentally stepped on the cobra, causing it to strike and bite her thigh. In a shocking twist, she continued singing for nearly 45 minutes, dismissing offers of medical assistance and assuming the snake's venom would not harm her. However, the venom had already begun to spread through her system. She collapsed mid-performance and was rushed to a hospital, but succumbed to the bite shortly thereafter. The tragic death of Irma Bule highlights the dangers of incorporating live animals into performances. Her refusal to seek immediate treatment, likely due to a misunderstanding of the snake's lethality, turned her final concert into a chilling cautionary tale. 15. Sid James, a laugh that echoed too long. Sid James, a beloved British actor and comedian, was best known for his roles in the Carry On film series. On April 26, 1976, James was performing in the play The Mating Season at the Sunderland Empire Theatre. The performance had been well received, and James was in his comedic element, delivering his lines with impeccable timing. During the second act, James suddenly slumped in his chair, appearing to have fallen asleep. The audience laughed, assuming it was a part of the show, but his co-star quickly realized something was wrong. The curtain was brought down and efforts were made to revive him, but James had suffered a fatal heart attack. The unnerving irony of James's death lies in its setting, a comedy show where laughter was the intended outcome. His passing during a moment of joy turned a night of entertainment into a somber and unforgettable tragedy, leaving a profound impact on his audience and colleagues. 16. Alexander Woollcott, death. During a radio broadcast, Alexander Woollcott, a celebrated American critic, writer, and radio personality, was known for his sharp wit and commanding presence. On January 23, 1943, Woollcott was participating in a live radio broadcast of the show People's Platform, discussing the topic of Adolf Hitler's rise and the ongoing war. Midway through the heated discussion, Woollcott began to slur his words and then slumped over his microphone. Listeners at home initially thought his sudden silence was a dramatic pause or technical glitch. However, his colleagues in the studio quickly realized something was gravely wrong. Woollcott had suffered a fatal heart attack during the live broadcast. He was pronounced dead shortly after being rushed to the hospital. Woollcott's death was disturbing not just because of its suddenness, but because it occurred in the middle of a passionate discussion, silencing a voice that had been so prominent in intellectual and cultural debates. His abrupt passing left listeners and colleagues shocked, with his final moments immortalized on air. 17. Chung Ling Soo, a magic trick gone wrong. Chung Ling Soo, born William Ellsworth Robinson, was a famous magician who adopted the persona of a Chinese conjurer, complete with elaborate costumes and a mysterious stage presence. One of his most famous illusions was the bullet catch, where he appeared to catch a bullet fired from a gun in his bare hands. On March 23, 1918, during a performance at the Wood Green Empire in London, the trick went horribly wrong. A gun misfire caused a live round to strike Robinson in the chest. As he collapsed on stage, he broke character and spoke his first words in English in front of an audience. "Oh my God, something's happened. Lower the curtain." He was rushed to the hospital but succumbed to his injuries. The death of Chung Ling-soo was particularly haunting due to the irony of a magician who built his fame on illusions being undone by the reality of his craft. It remains one of the most infamous tragedies in the history of stage magic, a chilling reminder of the risks performers take for their art. 18. Paul Mantz, a fatal crash for film's sake. Paul Mantz was a legendary stunt pilot known for his work in Hollywood, where he performed dangerous aerial stunts for movies. On July 8, 1965, during the filming of The Flight of the Phoenix, Mantz was piloting a cobbled-together aircraft for a scene that required him to fly close to the ground in the Arizona desert. As Mantz navigated the aircraft during the shoot, the plane unexpectedly hit a small hillock. The impact caused the aircraft to break apart, and Mantz was tragically killed on impact. The accident was captured on film, adding a haunting visual record to the tragedy. Mantz's death underscored the inherent dangers faced by stunt performers who often risk their lives to create cinematic magic. His passing was not only a devastating loss to the film industry, but also a sobering moment for Hollywood, highlighting the thin line between daring stunts and deadly consequences. 19. Gustav Mahler's conductor, death at the podium. Felix Model, an acclaimed Austrian conductor, was renowned for his interpretations of Wagner's operas. On June 21, 1911, Model was conducting Wagner's Tristan und Isolde in Munich. The opera, famous for its emotional intensity and themes of love and death, proved tragically prophetic for the conductor. During the second act, Model collapsed at the podium, stricken by a massive heart attack. The orchestra and audience were left in stunned silence as medical personnel rushed to assist him. Model was taken to a hospital but passed away days later on July 2, 1911. The unsettling aspect of Model's death lies in its timing. Wagner's Tristan und Isolde is an opera that delves deeply into the transcendence of love and mortality, themes that mirrored Model's final moments. His passing during such an emotionally charged work added an eerie layer of poignancy to an already tragic event. 20. Anton Webern, a composer's sudden end. Anton Webern, a renowned Austrian composer and key figure in the Second Viennese School, met his end in a bizarre and tragic way. On September 15, 1945, Webern was in Mittersill, Austria, during the post-war occupation by Allied forces. That evening, while visiting his daughter, Webern stepped outside to enjoy a cigar. Unbeknownst to Webern, a U.S. soldier stationed nearby mistook him for a threat in the darkness and fatally shot him. While Webern's death wasn't on a traditional stage, the tragic irony lies in the composer's connection to performance and art. His life's work was dedicated to creating music that transcended the mundane, only for his death to occur in such a senseless and violent manner. Webern's death is deeply disturbing not just because of its accidental nature, but because of the loss of an artist who contributed so profoundly to the evolution of modern classical music. His passing serves as a stark reminder of how the chaos of the world can intrude upon even the most extraordinary lives. The intersection of art and mortality is often where legends are forged, but when performers meet their end during the act of creation, the result is haunting. Across centuries and artistic mediums, the deaths of performers who passed away while on stage or in the pursuit of their craft resonate with a unique blend of tragedy and eerie significance. These 20 stories of lives cut short in the spotlight reveal the fragility of human existence, even for those who seem larger than life. Comedy is built on timing, and for Tommy Cooper, Dick Shawn, and Sid James, their final acts carried an unsettling twist of fate. Tommy Cooper, a master of slapstick and chaos, collapsed mid-performance during a live television broadcast in 1984. Audiences initially roared with laughter, unaware that his fall was genuine. Cooper's death became one of the most chilling reminders of how humor can obscure tragedy, a dichotomy that marked his career. Similarly, Dick Shawn's unconventional comedy took a grim turn in 1987 when his apocalyptic monologue ended with his collapse on stage. His audience thought it was part of his act, a dramatic commentary on life's futility. But when he didn't rise, the room transitioned from laughter to stunned silence, leaving an audience grappling with the collision of performance and reality. Sid James, a beloved figure in British comedy, passed away during a live theater performance in 1976. His comedic timing had earned him a loyal following, and when he slumped in his chair on stage, the audience laughed, thinking it was part of the show. Tragically, it was not. James's death mid-performance was both ironic and heart-wrenching, as it epitomized the close relationship between comedy and the unpredictability of life. The deaths of Mark Sandman, Jane Little, Leslie Harvey, and Nick Menza underscore how the rhythm of life can end abruptly in the midst of music. Sandman, the enigmatic frontman of Morphine, collapsed on stage during a set in Italy in 1999. The soulful intensity of his music made his sudden death during a live performance all the more poignant. Jane Little, a legendary double bassist, had spent over 7 decades with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. Her collapse during a jubilant performance of There's No Business Like Show Business was a poetic, albeit tragic, end to a lifetime dedicated to music. Leslie Harvey's death in 1972 was both shocking and avoidable. The guitarist's accidental electrocution from a poorly grounded microphone was a grim reminder of the physical dangers of live performances, leaving his bandmates and fans devastated. Similarly, Nick Menza, a drummer whose passion for music electrified audiences, collapsed during a small club performance in 2016. His death mid-song left an indelible mark on the heavy metal community, where he was cherished for his talent and intensity. Few professions blur the line between life and art as dramatically as stage magic, where the illusion of danger often becomes real. The death of Chung-Ling Soo, a celebrated magician, during a bullet catch trick in 1918, is one of the most infamous tragedies in magic history. A mechanical failure turned his illusion into a fatal misfire, shattering the boundary between performance and reality. His final words, "Oh my God, something's happened. Lower the curtain," echo the deep irony of a performer who spent his life crafting illusions only to be undone by the brutal truth. Irma Bule, a rising Indonesian singer, incorporated live snakes into her performances, adding an element of danger and spectacle to her act. However, when she was bitten by a cobra on stage in 2016, her decision to continue performing rather than seek immediate medical attention proved fatal. The eerie juxtaposition of a deadly animal and a performance meant to entertain left her fans and the world shaken by the risks she took for her art. Actors who died during performances, including Edith Webster, Molière, and Joseph Green, leave behind haunting reminders of the phrase, "The show must go on." Edith Webster's death during The Drunkard in 1986 was chillingly in sync with her role. Her character's scripted death became her real one, leaving the audience and cast unable to distinguish between fiction and reality. Molière, the iconic French playwright and actor, suffered a similarly ironic fate during his performance in Les Malades Imaginaires. Playing a hypochondriac, Molière succumbed to a pulmonary hemorrhage mid-performance. His death mirrored the themes of his play, blending satire with a grim real-life conclusion. Joseph Green, a filmmaker and actor, died during a speech honoring his career in 1996. His sudden collapse transformed a night of celebration into a sobering reminder of mortality. The dangers of stunt work claimed the lives of Owen Hart and Paul Mantz, both of whom died in front of audiences expecting spectacle, not tragedy. Owen Hart's fatal fall during a WWE event in 1999 was a horrifying accident witnessed by thousands. His comedic superhero entrance turned into a devastating reminder of the physical risks performers take in the name of entertainment. Paul Mantz, a legendary stunt pilot, was killed during the filming of The Flight of the Phoenix in 1965. A miscalculated maneuver led to a crash that ended his life, immortalizing his final moments on film. Both Hart and Mantz's deaths highlight the high stakes of stunts, where the margin for error is often dangerously thin. For Felix Model and Anton Webern, music was both their life's work and the backdrop to their tragic ends. Model, an Austrian conductor, collapsed while leading Wagner's emotionally intense opera Tristan und Isolde. The themes of love and death that pervade the opera seem to foreshadow his fate, as he succumbed to a heart attack at the podium in 1911. Webern's death was less theatrical, but equally tragic. The composer, known for his groundbreaking contributions to modern music, was accidentally shot by an Allied soldier in 1945. While his death did not occur on stage, the loss of such a visionary artist in such a senseless manner resonated deeply with the musical community. Alexander Woollcott's death during a live radio broadcast in 1943 and Jane Little's collapse at the height of her career underline the unpredictability of life's final moments. Woollcott, a sharp-tongued critic and cultural icon, was in the midst of a heated discussion when he suffered a fatal heart attack. His voice, which had commanded so much attention, fell silent in a moment that was both sudden and deeply ironic. The tragic death of Madame Delinsky, a 19th-century tightrope walker, serves as an early example of the perils performers face when courting danger. Her fall during a live performance with a child in her arms was a horrifying event that left audiences questioning the ethics of life-threatening stunts for entertainment. These 20 stories capture the fragility of life and the unpredictability of death, particularly for those who dedicate their lives to performance. Whether through irony, accident, or tragedy, each of these deaths left an indelible mark on their respective art forms. Their legacies endure, not only for their contributions to the arts, but also for the sobering reminder that even in moments of joy and creativity, life can take a sudden and devastating turn. These performers lived for their craft, and for many, their final moments became an inseparable part of their story, leaving audiences with a mix of awe, sadness, and an enduring sense of the ephemeral nature of life itself. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on the events surrounding onstage deaths? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.